Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. Today, this is obviously a little bit different setup than we usually have. Reality is I am so swamped right now and I do not have time to stop to film a video. So I'm gonna film a video while I am working on things. So this is gonna be, I've kind of done this before like several videos ago, but this is gonna be a little bit more like, I don't know if you want to say podcast style, where I'm probably not even going to be looking at the camera, so feel free to just put me on in the background and listen to me talk. This is going to be a much more like just kind of chit chat, see where you guys are at this holiday season, and all that fun stuff. I am doing 8 billion things right now and it's a lot. I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm exhausted if I'm being real. And so that is why it's been I think it's been nearly 2 weeks now since I've posted a video, so I apologize for that. But it's just been a little too crazy and I just haven't had time to sit down and film and edit and all that stuff. So I do apologize, but also I can't really do much about it right now. So this is kind of my solution. We're just gonna hang out. You're gonna, I mean, if you want to watch me label and wick trim candles and all that fun stuff, if you want to watch that, great. That's what I'm going to be doing while also talking to you guys just about some things going on. I have some fun exciting updates as well as just some other like general, I don't know, talking through things that I'm going through or things that in my business that I, want to talk about and things like that. So much more just kind of chill video today. But yeah, so let's get started. Also, don't mind just the general craziness here. This is actually like clean compared to what it usually is and what the rest of my studio currently looks like. You don't even want to know. You don't want to see it. It's fine. But yeah, first I just need to go through and take these off as well as trim these wicks and stuff. And then I have several candles that need to be labeled. They're on the other side of the room, but we'll get to that in a little bit. But first things first, I did want to let you guys know some exciting news, or at least exciting for me, and hopefully, I don't know, hopefully you're happy for me. But I did actually get monetized recently here on YouTube. I think it was a little over a week ago now that happened. It was like Thursday. I don't know. I don't even know what today is, to be honest. It's Sunday. But I don't know. It was not this past Thursday, but the Thursday before. Don't know, have no idea what the date was, and I don't have my phone near me currently, so I can't look it up. But you guys probably don't care that what date it was, but I did get monetized on here on YouTube, which is awesome. I am so thrilled about that. That was actually a goal that I had for this year, was to get monetized. I feel weird sharing that though, if I'm being honest, because I don't want you guys to think that like I'm only here to make money, because that's just not what I'm here for. I do really want to be a resource and to help you guys achieve more in your businesses and things like that, as well as I just want to have like a nice like way to look back on my business and see how far it's come and stuff like that years from now. But yeah, just kind of I want to see how far it's come, what I want to be able to look back on things that I did in my business that I documented here and stuff like that, and just all that kind of fun stuff. I mean, yes, I would be lying if I said that it's not nice to, I do enjoy being able to actually make money here on YouTube. And everything, just because I do put in a ton of work into my videos. I know some of you are probably like, really? But yes, I do actually. I mean, the filming isn't too hard, but the editing and stuff literally takes hours. And so, yeah, it's a lot of work that people don't realize. And so it is kind of nice to actually get paid for that and everything. It's not my main reason for being here, but it is a nice bonus for sure. And it's always nice in any business to kind of create you know, extra streams of revenue and stuff. I feel like that's a good idea with any business that you have. That way, when you have, you know, months that, you know, maybe your sales are down a little bit more than usual or something like that, then you've got, you know, other streams of revenue that are coming in that you don't have to worry as much about, you know, those sales and stuff like that. You don't have to worry so much about sales being a little down every now and then because you've got other streams of revenue coming in to kind of supplement that extra income. So I always think it's just kind of a nice, you know, thing to have multiple streams of revenue. To be honest, I feel like 2023 was kind of it was just a very, it felt like a very, like I was building a lot of things, if that makes sense. Like I was here building this YouTube channel, and I was also trying to build my business at the same time while also, you know, juggling a full-time job and, you know, being somewhat newly married. I mean, we've been married for 2 years now. I don't know at what point you stop saying that you're like newly married. It still feels like we're newly married. Still feel like we're in the honeymoon phase and everything. So yeah. But yeah, it's just one of those things that, like, I don't know when you stop saying that you're like newly married and stuff, but that's another thing. Obviously I want to invest in my marriage. Otherwise, you know, it wouldn't be great. But yeah, it just kind of feels like a year that I've been building a lot of things, and like they've just kind of finally started to take off. And I think that like in 2024 they'll hopefully, you know, I'll see the fruits of that or whatever, and it will take off even more, like here on YouTube and, you know, with my business. I did so many markets and events this year, and I do want to talk about that a little bit too here in a little bit. But yeah, and that's something that like I feel like is going to change this next year. But I felt like that the fact that I built it and the fact that I, you know, like was going to all these markets and stuff like that, and that I was doing all these things, it really led me to realize that maybe markets are not the way that I want to go in my business. Not saying that like I will never do one again or anything like that. And I definitely will still be doing them this year and stuff. But it's something that I kind of want to start to stray away from, because I'm realizing more and more that I don't enjoy them. I just don't. They're not fun for me. Yeah, that's just me being brutally honest. I don't enjoy them, don't love them. I'll do them if I have to. I'll do them if they're worth it. But sadly, a lot of them this year, it was very so-so. I feel like some of them were definitely worth it and some of them 100% were not. So that's just something that, yeah, I'm learning this year and everything. But I built that or whatever, and, you know, at least now I know what markets to go to this next year and stuff, and I know which ones are going to be good and which ones maybe won't be so good and to maybe just stay away from. But that kind of led me to realize some other things that I want to do with my business and stuff like that, and I think that, you know, just is not, it's not a bad thing. Sorry, there's probably a little bit of a jump here for you guys, but anyway, like I was saying, yeah, markets, as much as I don't know, I think I put a little bit too much faith in them because we had so many that went so well last year, that I just kind of was on this weird, I don't even know how to finish that, but I just was in this weird mindset that like all markets here just, you know, seem to do, or at least fairly well. I mean, maybe not, you know, we're making like, you know, thousands of dollars or anything, but, you know, we're at least, you know, making a couple $100 or whatever, you know, we're definitely, you know, more than breaking even, we're, you know, making profit, we're doing well and all this stuff or whatever. But then that wasn't the case for, all the markets this year. It definitely was for, you know, a portion of them or whatever, but there was, I don't even know, I'm not sure, it's probably real close to like, you know, the amount of good ones we had to the amount of bad ones, honestly. It just, yeah, we just had some really not so great ones this year, unfortunately. And I do want to preface that, like, last year when I was doing markets, I didn't really start, well, that's not true. I guess I did some, like, in February and March last year, too. But they were, like, it was more like a It was more like I set up at a mall, and it was much different than like a normal like market or event or whatever. And those did so. The first one went really well, but that was because I had a lot of friends come out and support me and stuff like that or whatever. But then after that, people, I mean, realize that they can just get the same stuff online. So it's, they're kind of like, the people that buy from me a lot, they're kind of like, well, if I can just get it online, I mean, there's no point in me going all the way out there to, wherever to get candles, which is totally fine. I mean, I'm glad that they're shopping anywhere or whatever. It's totally fine. But because of that, I had to start going to markets and stuff like that instead of doing the mall pop-up thing, because that was more like, word of mouth type thing or whatever. And it just wasn't the greatest. So then I started doing more markets and stuff last year, and I think I just got really lucky, and I just happened to apply to the markets that did really well. We really didn't have any, I don't know if we had any bad markets last year. I only did like a handful though, so keep that in mind. I didn't do like a ton or anything like last year. I had only done a handful really, and so, but those handful that I did just happened to all be really good ones, and they all went really well. And then this year, that just wasn't the case with all of them. And I know there's going to be people, who say, who want to, say the economy's bad and all that stuff or whatever, which it is. I'm not discrediting that or anything. It definitely is. Not denying that. Things are awful right now. Inflation is the worst right now. And stuff like that. We're all feeling that. I get that. But there are also still plenty of people out there spending plenty of money on candles and other things or whatever. So I just don't think that, I mean, yes, that might be a part of it, but I really don't think it's, I think that honestly some of the events were just not well marketed and stuff like that. And to be honest, I tend to trust people a little bit too much. And so, when someone is charging like $100+ for an event, I just kind of assume or at least I did, without really doing a whole lot of homework, that the event was going to be good, and that, they knew what they were doing, and that they had marketed it well, and the events in the past had gone well and stuff like that. And, maybe, and that was probably, I mean, it's my fault. I should have definitely done more homework, done more research on some of these events that I apply to and stuff, and asked more questions and things beforehand, which is a video that I'm going to talk about in the future, or, talk about questions that you should ask before markets and stuff that I kind of learned this year that I didn't really know before, or didn't really think about and stuff. But, I think I just put a little too much faith in some of them and just assumed that they knew what they were doing, and that, if they're charging $100+ for each vendor, that it's probably a really good event, and they know, like I said, they know what they're doing. They've, had good events in the past and stuff like that. And unfortunately, that just wasn't the case at all the events that I went to this year. I'd ask maybe afterwards or whatever and be like, so how was that supposed to go? Was that like a normal turnout for you? And they'd be like, yeah, that was pretty normal. That was, and I was like, oh, well, okay. Probably should have asked that question before I paid you. 'Cause yeah, just, they're charging way too much, to be honest. Some of them are charging way more than they should be for events that are just not there yet, that are not, and I'm not saying that they can't get there in the future, but, if they're charging that much for vendors to be there, and then, all the vendors are there and it's super slow, and they're not making their money back, or they're not making as much as they should be, it's kind of like that event is probably not going to do well the next year, because those vendors aren't going to want to come back. So, but anyway, sorry, I'm ranting a little bit. If you can tell, I'm just a little frustrated with some events we've done this year. And part of it is my fault. Like I said, I definitely should have asked more questions, should have, asked more questions. Really, that's really the gist of it. I should have, done more research on some of these events before just assuming that these people knew what they were doing, because that just wasn't always the case, sadly. I don't know how it is in kind of your guys' areas and stuff like that. I know it's kind of probably all over the place, I assume, with, you know, how much people charge for vendor events. Here, a lot of places just kind of like $100 seems to be like the main one that I see, which is kind of the case last year. I paid $100 for several events or whatever last year too, but all of those events, like I said, did really well. And then this year, I mean, different events that we tried out that were also $100 just did not do that well. But like, I'm totally aware that like, obviously no event coordinator can, you know, like they can't guarantee any, you know, any number of people that are going to be there or any sales or anything like that. I'm totally aware of that. But I definitely think that event coordinators should not be charging $100 per vendor if like they're only expecting 300 to 400 people to show up or whatever, because that's just not, you know, especially if you have, you know, 20 to 40 vendors or whatever at this thing, and you're only expecting 300 to 400, maybe even 500, you know, to show up or whatever. That's just not, you know, that's just not good for the vendors, because, you know, they're gonna make, you know, very little. You know, they might make enough to cover the cost of the event, but they're not making any profit and stuff like that, or very little profit. And so it's just not, you know, not a great system. And so I think what happened is just, you know, some newer event coordinators. I feel like we have Omaha here has like just events after event after event. Like we have events galore here, like so many going on all the time. And I think that you know, I think that like there's always new event coordinators popping up and stuff like that, and so they see all these other places charging $100+ because they're an established event and they're doing well and they're bringing in, you know, consistently large, you know, crowds and stuff like that, and then but then they're thinking that they can do the same and, you know, that their first event is going to be just as good and all this stuff, and then, you know, all their vendors are, you know, getting frustrated because they're not making the sales that, you know, they should have made. I mean, and there was one event that we paid, you know, we only paid like $65, I think, to be there. And we made more than what we made at like most of the events that we're paying $100 for. So it really is, I know it's kind of all over the place, but I don't think that like we can always just blame it on the economy, because I'm like, well, if all these other events are still doing pretty well, you know, don't know if that's necessarily the one to blame, but, and there were definitely some that, you know, I signed up for, and honestly, I didn't see them really marketing the event hardly at all. And then we'd get there and there'd be like, you know, hardly any customers that would come. And it was like, well, that's what happens when you don't market and stuff. I mean, obviously they can only do so much, but, you know, if they're charging us $100 each, I definitely expect some of that money to be going towards marketing and stuff like that. If you're a good event coordinator, that's just common sense. But anyway, all that to say, like, I'm just kind of a little, to be honest, I'm a little burnt out on events, and also just the fact that just like, I don't know, this year it was a lot of events. We did a lot of events, and stuff, and, you know, I would say maybe half were good and half were not, somewhere around there. I haven't really looked at, you know, the actual, like, I don't remember the exact number of ones that were good and which ones were bad or whatever, but, you know, that's kind of where I'm at guessing or whatever. That coupled with just the fact that, like, obviously events are inconsistent. Even ones that did, because we had one last year that was like our second best event of the whole year last year. And then sadly we did it again this year. They put us in a different spot than we were in last year. And that, and I think just coupled with the fact that it was also quite a bit warmer this year on the day of the event than it was last year, we really unfortunately didn't do nearly as well as we did last year. I actually don't even know if we made half of what we made last year. And so that was also another factor that was, you know, frustrating, is like events are just obviously very like unpredictable. You can't, you know, the weather, like all these things go into it that make it, you know, like you really just don't know what's going to happen. So anyway, all that to say, I think I was just relying a little bit too much this year, and that's partially on me, is I was relying too much on events to kind of grow my business this year, because we had so many that did so well last year that, I felt like, I was like, all right, this is the way we're going to go. We're just going to go all in on events and stuff, and it's going to be great. And unfortunately, it was so. And kind of on top of all of that as well is like, I've realized this year after doing so many events that I just don't really enjoy them that much. They're nice sorry, I had to just make sure that this was the right candle that I thought it was. But, like even when, even the ones that like did, really well and stuff this year, like, like there's all the things that you have to consider, like the weather and the fact that like you're going to have to set up a tent and all this stuff for most of them, at least. Like we have so many indoor events that happen during the winter and stuff like that, but then almost none, like no indoor events happen at all during the summer. They're always outside. And I'm just like, I feel like this is an opportunity being missed. Like, not everyone wants to go outside shopping when it's like 100+ degrees outside, Personally, like I wouldn't want to do that, I will show up to a market where, well, not 100+, but, because all my candles will melt, but, I'll show up to markets and stuff like that if I have to, if I'm making money, but like, I wouldn't want to go shopping in that. And I think, some people definitely will be fine with it, but I just really wish there were more indoor events that happened like during the summer and stuff too, especially for, people like us who are candle makers and everything, who, our product will literally get destroyed if we're out in the heat for too long. And that's just not something we want to deal with. But anyway, all that to say, like I kind of want to get away from events this year. And I think that the way that I do that is wholesale, which is something that I've been saying that I've been wanting to get into, but I haven't really taken any step, like in any direction really, to get that started, just because it kind of overwhelms me a little bit. Thinking of shipping that many candles at once really is like, I know that seems like such a small thing, but to me it's like terrifying, because I'm like, what if all 150 or however many candles they make, what if like literally every single one breaks and then I have to replace all those and then I've made zero money, It's just like things like that really like worry me about wholesale and stuff. Like even though I rarely ever have a candle get broken, I also, like I'm shipping 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 or 6 candles at the most, like at a time, when you're talking about shipping, a ton of them, 25, 50, 75, 100, whatever candles and stuff, it's just, I feel like that's a higher chance of them arriving broken and stuff. And so it just kind of overwhelms me a little bit. And on the other side of it, I know that, I could reach out to, just people around the area who own shops and stuff like that. I'm really introverted, and so that also scares me. So there's a lot of things about wholesale that like it kind of overwhelms me. It terrifies me a little bit. But I think it's like that thing that I've just kind of got to get over that. I've got to get over that fear. I've got to move past it and just, like I have with everything else in this business, just go for it and just start it and, do it afraid. That's kind of just what you have to do, is like you have to do it even while you're scared still or whatever, until you eventually don't feel scared anymore. I have done a few wholesale orders and stuff already and everything. I mean, before this year, I haven't done any this year, which is sad. And it's my own fault. I haven't really advertised or done much of anything that goes towards wholesale. But almost dropped this. But yeah, and so I know it's my own fault and everything. But it's just one of those things that it's like, that kind of sucks. Because I did have a goal of getting more into wholesale. Like I had a goal, I can't remember, of being in a certain amount of shops this year, and that definitely did not happen. But honestly, I think I needed to kind of get to this place where like I realized like, okay, I've got, like if I really want to grow my business, if I really want to leave my job, if I want this to be like a full-time thing, this is the way to go, at least for me. am fine with doing events or whatever, but I really don't enjoy it. And I think that long term it will definitely burn me out and stuff, and I don't want that. And so, like I said, I'm not like saying I'm never going to do an event again or anything like that. I definitely will, but I think overall that I would rather put my efforts this year into wholesale than into doing more events and stuff like that. And also that kind of lines up with like what, the reason I started my business was always so that I could have more free time with, my family, me and my wife Samantha. We have lots of goals and stuff like that we have for our life and everything, and none of them they really can't be achieved super well or as easily with us working in an office. And to be honest, neither of us want to be working in an office. We both have dreams and goals and jobs or businesses, I guess I should say, that we want to do and everything. And so it just kind of is one of those things that, like, if we want this to take off and everything, if I want this to take off, then I just have to get into wholesale. I have to, like, it's just a thing. I think that is just really my next step or whatever, is getting into businesses and stuff like that. Obviously I can't really sit around waiting for one of my reels or TikToks that I like barely ever post. But I can't sit around and wait for one of those to go viral and to get me hundreds and hundreds of customers at a time. Although that's great that happens and it's great that that's possible. I can't really just, sit around waiting for that to happen because, it's just not always necessarily going to happen. And that's definitely not even been like a strategy or anything. Like, I have not like sat around just hoping that I would go viral or something like that. Like, that isn't like a thing that I've even like thought of really, because I know I'm like, I know what to do on social media, but I don't have the energy to do it. So, that's just the reality. For those of you who don't know, my full-time day job is communications, marketing, and all that stuff. And so I literally spend probably 90% of my day, I feel like, on social media. I mean, it's not really, but it feels like it sometimes. Definitely social media and email marketing, and stuff like that. And so when I get home, the last thing that I want to do is more of that. And so I'm fully aware of like what I need to do to grow on social media, but I'm too tired, too exhausted to do it. So, but anyway, I am actually really excited to get into wholesale and stuff this year. I've got a lot of ideas. Like, the first thing is, like, I have been on Fair for over a year and haven't made a single sale. But I've been watching a lot of Erica from Memory Box Candle Co. I've been watching a lot of her videos and been really inspired to kind of give it another try. The reality is like my story is very similar to hers with Fair. She was also on it for like a year, didn't get any sales. She ended up closing down and knocking things over. She ended up closing her shop down on Fair and like, I think she just completely got off of it for a while and then decided to get back on it. I don't plan on closing my shop down on it or anything like that, but I really want to revamp kind of how everything looks on there, how my candles look. I really just kind of copy and pasted everything from my website over to Fair and hoping that was good enough. And unfortunately, it just wasn't. And I'm, I get it. It's totally, it is what it is. It just means that I'm going to have to put more work into it and stuff like that. But I think that is a way that I want to go, is definitely through Fair. But then I also had I had several businesses here in Omaha that I've been, kind of social media stalking and stuff like that, that I think would be really good. They don't have candles, or they don't have, a very wide selection of candles or anything like that in their stores. And so I think that some of them I'd really like to contact and see, either try and set up a meeting with them or, something like that. I definitely will always email or DM businesses first. I'm just not that kind of person. I'm just not going to show up at their business trying to get them to buy my stuff or whatever. Like, that's just not me. I'm just not going to do that. I'm really uncomfortable with that. I don't like it when people do that to me. So I don't want to do that to other people. I personally, like, I don't even like when I go into a store and, like, there's people trying to instantly, like, sell me things or whatever. I really hate that. Like, honestly, like, even if I, like, am already planning on buying something, like, if I'm going into a store and I've already got a plan to buy something and, like, they're trying to, like, upsell me on it or things like that, or they're, like, doing all their, you know, sales tactics of, like, trying to be my best friend and all this stuff or whatever, like, I see right through it and I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't appreciate it. And it makes me, like, automatically not even want to buy, like, the thing that I already came here to buy or whatever. Like, I'm like, I'll just buy it online. Because, yeah, I just don't, not a fan. I get that people are just trying to make their money. I get it, but I'm not a fan. So, but anyway, I'm saying all this because I want you guys to kind of hold me accountable this year. You know, maybe, you know, a few months into the year, you can contact me and just be like, hey, how's the wholesale going? What you doing? You know, and hopefully I'll be able to say I'm, you know, doing something at least or whatever. And I'm not just like, you know, sitting around hoping for it to just magically take off. But yeah, I do want to talk about too, I know that we kind of touched on this earlier, this whole, you know, I know that the economy and all of that is total crap right now. I'm fully aware of that. Inflation, you know, food, all that stuff, housing prices, all that are just way up. They're crazy high and stuff. But I honestly just never really like to use that as an excuse. I know plenty of businesses that have, you know, they've started during a recession or whatever, and they've come out, you know, crazy ahead of every other business in their in their business area or whatever, their niche, I guess, whatever you could say. Not even just candle businesses, but like farmers, you know, just other like clothing brands and things like that or whatever, like people that I know that, you know, they've started during a recession and stuff like that. And they've come out and they're, you know, making hundreds of thousands of dollars or maybe even millions. So, like, yes, I totally get that, like, the economy is a factor in, you know, people's sales being down. I'm not gonna, like, say that that's not, you know, even a thing or anything like that. I know that it is a factor or whatever in sales being down and things like that, but I never like to make it be like that is like the only reason sales are down or things are, you know, not going great in business and stuff like that, just because I think that that really is kind of a poverty mentality. And kind of what I mean by that is, like, I think that a lot of us, you know, we grew up in the way that we grew up, like you know, we think about money in the way that we grew up thinking about money. You know, this is something that I've had to learn and unlearn about myself, is that, you know, like, I grew up in a definitely not rich family. We were very, I don't know if I would say very poor, but we were definitely not well off by any means. Thankfully, I mean, we did always at least kind of have money for food. Occasionally, I mean, we would, you know, my parents would have to ask my grandparents for money, or they would have to, you know, get another credit card or another loan or, you know, something like that occasionally or whatever. And there were definitely times where we were, you know, thousands, if not, you know, I don't know the full financial, you know, like, I don't know what was necessarily going on because I was a kid, but you know, but I know that we were hundreds, if not thousands of dollars in debt at different times and stuff. And obviously I was a kid, and so I don't know all the, you know, ins and outs of what was going on, but I do know that we were, you know, pretty much always in debt, you know, growing up and stuff like that. I remember, you know, my mom having to use a credit card just to be able to ever buy us, like, any Christmas presents or having to buy us clothes for school or things like that. We definitely never had, like, the newest, you know, whatever, you know, we definitely never had, like, the newest thing that was out or the cool gadget that, you know, whatever, because back then, like, cell phones were still kind of just barely becoming a thing. It wasn't until I was like older, I was like probably 13, 14 when cell phones were more like popular or whatever. I'm showing my age. I'm only 29, but you know, it's fine. But there was, and I even remember there was a time that my parents told me about that, you know, that they were so broke that they couldn't file for bankruptcy. Apparently, it was like they went through the whole process of, you know, filing for bankruptcy or whatever. They went through all the paperwork and stuff. And then the guy, whoever they were working with, said like, okay, that'll be like $100. And they were like, we don't have $100. And so they couldn't file for bankruptcy because they literally didn't have the money to, which is insane. But yeah, but that was kind of, you know, what I grew up with and stuff like that. Thankfully, my parents are both doing, you know, much better now, financially. And stuff. I mean, they're definitely not rich by any means, but they're doing well. They're, you know, they're okay and everything. They have more than enough to pay for all their bills and food and stuff like that, as far as I know. So yeah. But when you kind of grow up in a household where you, like, even though you may not know all the ins and outs or whatever, but you obviously know that, like, we don't have money, we don't, you know, we definitely are not rich. We definitely, I mean, I would say that we were poor. I definitely wouldn't say that we were like, you know, we were never homeless or anything like that. We were definitely on the verge a couple times. But thankfully, you know, things always worked out and everything for us, which was nice. But I think that when you grow up like that, you kind of grow up with, like I said, a poverty mentality of, or at least that's what I did for the longest time. And it's something that I'm still having to unlearn and having to, you know, kind of rewire my thinking around money and stuff. It's very easy for me to think like, well, you know, the economy's really bad right now, inflation's really bad, so no one's spending any money, and so my business is going to fail, and, you know, all this stuff. It's just really easy to go down kind of that really negative rabbit hole. And stuff, and it's really not true. Yes, the economy is not doing great, but there are still plenty of people who have more than enough money. They are doing well, and they have money to spend on some candles or whatever. You know, they might not be rich or whatever, but they have enough that, you know, they're like, hey, I want to treat myself a little bit, and I want to buy some nice candles, you know. Like I said, they might not be, you know, super rich or anything, but they're still doing well enough that they are able to treat themselves to some candles. And there are definitely some rich people out there who also want to treat themselves to some candles, you know. I think that, you know, like I was saying, when you grow up with, you know, not having enough all the time, you maybe, if you're like me, you even kind of feel like, you know, even if you are making a decent amount of money in your life at this time and everything, you kind of still are like in that mindset of like, well, I don't have enough to buy this, I don't have enough to get that, or you don't want to buy those things because you're afraid that like you're going to go back into the place where you don't have enough money, you know, something's going to happen to your job or your business or whatever it is. And so you kind of start to think like, well, I need to save for that happening. I need to plan for that happening or whatever and things like that. And so it can really kind of put you into this mentality of just never having enough and kind of always kind of making you feel like you're behind and like you're never going to be able to get ahead because of, you know, where you came from and, you know, just where you've been and all that stuff. You kind of just get into this place of thinking like wherever you're at with money, like that is where you're going to stay for the rest of your life. And that's just not true. Like right now, like we are definitely not rich or anything like that, but we have more than enough money to pay our bills, to, you know, do some of the things that we want to do. We definitely don't have money to like go on these like extravagant vacations or anything like that. You know, someday hopefully. But you know, we still have money to do fun things like, you know, go to movies, go out to dinner when we want to, occasionally go to like a nicer restaurant or, you know, things like that. We have money to do that and stuff. And so it's not like, you know, we're definitely not rich by any means, but we're definitely not poor either. But sometimes it's still hard for me to like spend money. Like even just the other day, I was like, I wear my shoes out until they are like they're barely even shoes anymore. They're just essentially just sandals at some point. Like they're, you know, like they're falling apart and stuff, because it's just one of those things that I've never cared about. I do not care what shoes I'm wearing. I just don't. I don't care about shoes. They're just not a thing that I care about. I don't ever stare at people's feet. Like I just don't. I don't care about their feet. I don't care about the shoes that they're wearing. I just really don't. And so it's one of those things that like I personally don't care about. And so like I don't care if my shoes are like a little worn out and stuff a little bit, but mine are definitely like well past worn out at this point. And so the other day I was like, I really need to get some more shoes. But it's like one of those things I don't want to spend the money on, even though we have money to spend it on. It's just like one of those things that I'm like, I don't want to spend money on this because, you know, I just don't want to. So, you know, I'd rather have that money for something else. And, you know, but I think that's the danger in kind of having that poverty mentality, is like you kind of always have this little voice in the back of your mind that says, well, you can't spend money on that. Like you've got to save for in case this happens or that happens, or, you know, this thing falls apart, or, you know, if you lose your job or this happens, or, you know, whatever. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't have savings. I'm not saying that you shouldn't, you know, save and, you know, save for stuff like that, and you shouldn't have some kind of emergency fund. I'm not saying that you shouldn't or anything like that. You definitely should. But, you know, overall, it's just like that's your constant mentality, is like I have to constantly save, or constantly like we can't spend money because we can't do this or that because, you know, we're not going to have enough someday, or we're always just going to be stuck in this place. And so later in life, you know, when we have kids or when we have this happen or that happen, we're just not going to have enough money to cover it. And, you know, it's just really easy to kind of stay stuck in that kind of poverty mentality of that there's not enough money out there for me. There's not enough money for me to make. There's not enough money for my business to make, or for me to make in order to run my business, or things like that. And the reality is like, that is just, it's such a lie. It's such a lie. There's so much money out there. There's so much money to be made, and stuff like, it's really hard to think of that sometimes when you have grown up in maybe more of a, you know, a poor setting. It's hard to imagine, like, for someone who, you know, grew up, you know, never really having enough money, never having, you know, like we were just barely scraping by and stuff like that. It's hard for us to imagine, you know, that, you know, there are businesses that are making 6, 7, 8 figures plus, you know, and stuff like that. And it's just hard to imagine that we could also have that in our business and stuff like that. And so we kind of get to this point where we just blame the economy, or we blame, you know, everything else around us, and saying like, well, we'll never be able to get that because of this or that. We'll never be able to have that because of whatever reasoning. So anyway, all that to say, I know I kind of babbled a little bit about a lot of different things, but all that to say is that is kind of why I don't like to blame the economy on everything and stuff, just because I'm trying to rewire my own brain into, you know, the fact that we do have enough money. There is so much money out there to be made and to be had and all that stuff. And I don't have to worry. We are going to continue growing our business. We're going to continue growing in our careers and all the things that we want. And I have to tell myself that all the time, because otherwise I do get into that poverty mentality of never having enough and, you know, never being able to move forward and stuff like that. And that's just not true. But I think I am going to end today's video here, just because I do need to, I've just labeled a bunch of candles, but I still have a lot more to label, and I still have to print out the labels and all that stuff. And this has already been a fairly long video, and my camera battery is about to die. So, but I hope you guys kind of enjoyed this kind of chill, just kind of talking video. Let me know your thoughts. I hope I haven't offended anyone or anything like that with the whole, you know, poverty mentality talking about stuff like that or whatever. I'm always worried that, like, you know, I understand everyone has different viewpoints and stuff like that, and that's totally fine. So yeah, hopefully I haven't offended anyone or anything like that. If I have, you know, let me know down in the comments. Be respectful, be nice, and I will do the same. I do always love to hear other people's viewpoints and stuff like that on that. Doesn't mean, you know, even if we don't agree with each other, it doesn't mean we can't still be friends. If you guys do like this style of video where I'm kind of just talking while I'm working and getting stuff done, let me know by giving this video a thumbs up, as well as subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And if you have done both of those things, I would love to have a comment from you down below, just letting me know, you know, your thoughts, you know, that you like this type of video, or maybe something I talked about that you enjoyed or whatever, or that you'd like to hear me talk about more of. Just let me know down in the comments, and I'd love to do that. But that is going to be it for today. If you guys would like to continue hanging out, you can check out one of the other videos that are about to pop up on the screen, and I will see you there.